Welcome to a galaxy far, far away. Here at the Cantina podcast, we provide top shelf service, including rumors, leaks, news, and reviews. Come in, order a Loman Ale, and remember, no droids allowed.
Audio, just us only. Our video only. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Cantina here on the Genreverse Podcast Network and Genreverse Podcast YouTube channel. So wherever you get your podcasts from and the YouTube channel, like, share, follow, subscribe, all of those good things. Leave us some reviews, thumbs up, down, comments. LRMonline.com. Go there every day for all of the stories that we're about to talk about usually. And then, of course, all your other entertainment news, needs, and opinions. I'm Kyle. That's Cam. Shockey he's at Dragon Con, isn't he? Isn't that where he's at? I think so.
I don't remember.
I think Shockey might be at Dragon Con, or at least he's in Georgia, if I recall correctly, supporting that thing. Anyways, and no, we're not trying to be secret. I just can't remember that book. Is it Tim or Mike's book? I can't remember. Sorry.
It's Tim's new comic book.
Yeah, I think that's what they're there supporting,
promoting it and stuff. So,
And not a whole lot of Star Wars stuff to discuss today. It's kind of been a lax week. Disney's letting Warner Brothers spend some time in the spotlight while letting She-Hulk run, which I know you guys are here for Star Wars. You can check out the She-Hulk reviews on Marvel Multiverse Mayhem, but I do have to ask, Cam, how are you liking She-Hulk? Second episode. Did you watch it yet?
Right.
It's all right. Yeah. I'm kind of there. It's like it's good. It's not great. I told Nick on the episode 2 review, it's good. It's not an A, Nick, but it's a good solid B.
It's all right. Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
Considering I didn't think I would like it, I think it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. But back to the galaxy far, far away.
Mm-hmm.
The big upcoming thing besides Disney Plus Day next month, which, you know, we're sure to get something. We don't know what. It might just be a graphic.
Do you remember?
I'm gonna make my joke. Let me finish the joke. It might just be a graphic for a show like Ahsoka that's seen in some video full of graphics, and that'll be it. But we might get something like that.
Yeah,
the bad batch shit that they erased.
Yeah.
Or so. But we are going to be getting Andor next month, and that is something that, well, you would hope is set in stone, but again, Warner Brothers in the spotlight moving things, and Disney did move this once already.
Yeah, I can't see it moving again.
Oh, I hope not. But we did get a new clip from Andor talking about stealing from the Empire, and it's got one of the Skarsgårds, Stellan. Is it Stellan? Is that the dad? I don't remember. Yeah,
it's
I think
Stellan
so.
that's in Andor. Yeah.
It features his character and Cassian discussing how Cassian can procure stuff, and it's a good clip, man. I'll play it for everyone where you can see it, but you won't be able to necessarily hear it. But Cam, what'd you think of this clip?
I never put too much stock in sort of clips that they release beforehand. I think I only watched it just once and off, on a phone, so no particularly great thoughts on it, but it just goes along with everything that I've seen looks good so far from Andor. I've not really seen anything that's made me think negatively in any way so far from anything I've seen, and that includes the clip.
I think what I really noticed in here was the room. I'm not gonna lie, it's the set, it's the feel of this production. The dialogue's fine. It feels like what you would expect in this type of scene. So we've heard some of this dialogue in the trailers already, but it did give me a little bit more because it's a steady scene. It's not a trailer where you're going back and forth. It gave me a little bit more of a feel for the the feel of this show, like the texture of it, the legitimate feel of the show hitting your eyes and your senses. And
you kind of have to feel like you're really in some galaxy far, far away, and some Star Wars shows haven't always done that recently. This does feel like that,
And so that made me happy, man. It really did. it's an exciting idea coming about at the wrong freaking time after spending too much damn time in this area of Star Wars. So for me, I've said this on the show several times, this really has to be a home run. This for me is like how Obi-Wan was for some people, not where I love it that much, but where it needs to be high, or it's just not worth it. You know what I'm saying? I don't want this to fizzle out like Kenobi did. I'll laugh my ass off if this is loved more than Kenobi, but I hope it's good regardless. But that did give me good feels.
There's potential there. I think the feeling I get from it is that it's a mature show. It's not really aimed at kids. It's aimed for the more mature Star Wars fan. I could be wrong on that, but that's the feel you get from it. And certainly the things that we're hearing from, like Tony Gilroy, is kind of aiming towards a more mature show. And I think we need that at the moment. So, fingers crossed, but, I'm hoping that it will be a very good show. And I think one of the things that we're going to go on to talk about is it's finite as well. They've got a specific window and a specific idea of how they're going to do this, and sometimes that can work for a show as well, because we know we are only going to get 2 seasons worth.
Yeah, even though they originally thought and had even said, and from the looks of it on the surface, I don't. No, they actually did say it was going to be 5 seasons, right? Does Gilroy talk about that?
The idea was originally, like pre-filming and everything, that they were going to do 5 seasons, like 5 years. So both seasons will represent 5 years, right?
But we're definitely getting season 2 more condensed.
Need to do that, yeah. So, and remember, it's a 12 episodes season as well, so it's beyond what you would normally expect, so that's going to allow them to do that. And there will be time jumps. He's talked about how, like, the shows maybe come in
3 episode blocks,
and there could then be gaps. Obviously, there could be a gap, between season 1 and season 2, but there could also be gaps between these sort of episode blocks as well, where you kind of jump forward in time. And that's a kind of interesting idea in itself, so I definitely think it's better to try and kind of cram it all in and get that story out there than it would have been to drag it almost over a 5 season kind of thing. And plus, what age would Billy Luna be by the time they finished it, because 5 seasons takes 8 years, maybe
7 to 8 easy.
Yeah, it was.
And my only kind of hope for our fear for season 2, if you will, is feeling that pressure. But still, 3 episodes is a lot of time to tell a story, and especially if these pushed 30 to 45 minutes. I don't know if these are all like set in stone to only be
an idea of that yet.
Yeah. So I was going to say, there's plenty of time to tell a good story, and you don't need to know every little finite thing about an entire year. Having a story element that takes place over a few days. I mean, it's going to be dangerous because it could easily feel rushed, but I'm hopeful, and there's always hope, Cam.
Rebellions are built on hope, one would say, even.
Yeah, maybe even. What else did Tony say about the seasons?
So there was a recent interview that Tony Gilroy had done with the playlist. They released it as a couple of different interviews, but the first thing he talked about is basically how the show's going to end, which kind of seems strange, but given that there is the Rogue One movie that comes after this, it does kind of make sense. So Tony Gilroy basically said, our final scene of the show is no secret. It's going to be Cassian walking across the tarmac to get in the ship, to go to the Rings of Catherine, to go and meet Daniel Mays. That's the informant character that Cassian kills in Rogue One because he's become a liability. He's going there. So, it's going to go right into Rogue One kind of thing, because this is kind of Cassian's story of how I got there, rather than having some dramatic end to it that exists on its own. I mean, it does make a lot of sense, but the way Gilroy put it was, I mean, when you watch the History Channel shows and whatever, what's the story? Well, you know how it's going to turn out, and still, why did it happen? You know, and yeah, that's interesting. It's the kind of way of all prequels and stories that are built within certain timelines that we have to accept that. That's the kind of prequel thing. But because it's just got that kind of one film, if you like, you didn't really get a lot of Cassian in Rogue One. You know, he's a character, but, you know, Jammer's talked about this before, Janet, to say, like, that he doesn't feel any of the characters in Andor really are fully realised. They don't have full arcs. And while I like Rogue One more than he does, I can kind of see that point, you know. Cassian just kind of shows up, does what he does, and, you know, there isn't a lot of real character development. There's little bits, but not much. So to kind of see where that character come from could be quite an interesting story. It also could be rubbish, but I'm more excited. It feels as if we're getting to see things from the Empire's point of view a lot in this show as well. And I'm kind of excited about that side of things. Gilroy did also talk about an exit strategy, but I don't know, you're going to say something else there, sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say when it comes to the whole Empire point of view, it's one of those things that I miss most about the EU was all the time you got to spend with Imperials, spend with the bad guys to see the inner workings and stuff like that. We'll get a little snippet with, you know, some dialogue exposition from a character like Reva, but that's it. You know, I'm hoping this is more.
What I liked about Rogue One was the Empire stuff as well. You know, Krennic was phenomenal, and, you know, there was a lot of time spent with him and Tarkin and what was going on behind the scenes as well in Rogue One, you know, from their point of view. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that carrying on, if you like, carrying on, but coming before, if you know what I mean. He also talked about, you know, why it was important to have an exit strategy, you know, to plan when they were going out, and this is where he talks about the kind of the 3 show structure, if you like. So we have a really cool narrative thing we're going to do, because we have blocks of 3 that we shoot the show in, and more of a production thing really. It was for directors, but a lot of our shows lined up like that. The director comes in and does 3 episodes at a time or in a row, but we realised we couldn't possibly make a show for 5 years. It was just physically impossible, like going to Mars or something, which kind of tells you why they were bringing it down. He says they were in Scotland. I've heard of that country before, but I don't know much about it.
I don't know anything about it. I hear Ireland is better, but whatever.
So I've heard that, but who knows? And he says, you know, oh my God, you know, almost this is a funny quote for being in Scotland. Oh my God, how do we get out of here? How are we going to get out? What's our exit strategy? And then we realised, oh my God, we have 4 years and we have 4 blocks. And I went home and I came back with, you know what, we're not coming back to Scotland all the time. So we're going to cut it down and we're going to come back for part 2. And we're going to jump a year, etc., he says. And then we'll come back after that. Now, I'm sure what he wasn't referring to was really spending time in Scotland. Although, you never know, the weather's not great.
I was going to say, man, I remember Europe.
Yeah, you know, and it's quite north for Europe as well. But anyway, but I think more what they're saying is it just wasn't going to work. They you know, they needed to do something different, and while they were filming it, you know, they came up with a strategy to kind of do this a little bit different and kind of cut it all down. So they said it's a year later, all this shit's happened, but we're going to come back for a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday, and then we're going to jump a year, then we're going to do like 5, 6, 7 days and jump a year, and then we're going to do 2 weeks and jump a year. Then the final block, we're going to come back to be the last 5 days before Rogue One, if that makes sense. So, you know, just before he goes off to that thing.
Yeah. That we want to learn, you know, what that deal was and how it all goes down and everything leading up to it is all interesting and what really kind of as much as Janet had it right that, you know, the characters don't get a lot of development. I do appreciate what they did with Rogue One overall, which was these characters we know nothing about them and they don't exist anymore. Let's kill them all off. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen Rogue One. But
yeah.
That makes sense. But it also, they did well enough, especially with the Andor character specifically, to lay down little things, lines like when he's talking about, you know, you don't know the horrible things I've done, and you know, you know, this has to be done for the rebellion, and when he doesn't shoot Galen or Urso on the platform, all of those little moments that they gave Diego Luna's character, they gave to Andor, made it
he was the character
where this is available. They made this available. They made this show possible through Rogue One by saying, well, yeah, we don't have a lot to say or do with this character. There is a lot going into him, and Diego Luna talked about a backstory that he had helped come up with and worked with, I think it was Gilroy on Rogue One, and he said, you know, we brought that stuff up again. This was a while ago, and in some past interview, he said he got to bring up some of the things that were in his mind as the character that they had worked on back for Rogue One. So, like I said, it's got a little bit working against it, where I'm just tired of being in this era of Star Wars. But it is some of the things that I think it's potentially going to cover some of the things that I really liked about old Star Wars. So I'm cautiously excited, Cam.
That's probably a good way to put it. So the last
thing
from kind of this interview that was probably relevant is that Gilroy said that he will not be directing any episodes of season 2. Now, if you remember, originally Gilroy was also supposed to direct season 1 as well. Then COVID hit, and for whatever reason he couldn't direct, so they hired directors, and they brought some really good directors, actually, very experienced people, and they brought them in to do these kind of blocks. And I think, well, I'll read what you know, his quote, but you know what Gilroy's essentially saying is it was a blessing in disguise. You know, when he did that, he realised that was better, because then he was seeing them interpret things in ways that he hadn't imagined them being interpreted, and it gave just that little bit more flavour to what he was seeing. So when it came to season 2, it was like, no, we basically do the same thing again. So he said season 2, I'm not, when he was asked if he would direct any episodes, how was I even going to? I mean, COVID kind of saved the show, because I was so ignorant and naive about how difficult and how huge it was going to be. I mean, I had no clue, and if I'd directed, I mean, it would have been, I don't know what would have happened to the show. The job I have to do now is so all-consuming and so much more than that. It's just not a good use of my time to be on the set at all. And the directors that we get, they come, they're energised, they're ambitious, and so I can take it all the way down and do the whole thing, and they come in with that new hunger that you really need. They come in with that extra little thing. And it's very exciting to wake up, because my days are out of New York. It'll be 5 o'clock in the morning, wake up, turn on dailies and go, wow, I wouldn't have shot that way. That's, wow, look what they did, right? So, no, I'm not directing. I can't. I want to come back and direct something else later on, but I can't do it now. The job's just too big, and I just can't afford the time. So,
yeah,
it seems... I mean, what I said when I covered this story was... you know, almost a Yoda-like line. It shows great wisdom to dispense with ego and admit one's own limits, you know, because kind of that's what you need to do. You know, it's not about, no, I need to be the name that says director on this. It needs to be entirely my vision. He was kind of willing to give up some control in order to focus on what he really wanted to do, and let other people bring their vision into it as well. And something that just creates the nice... what's the word I'm looking for? Creative atmosphere that can make a show or a story really kind of tick as well. So
it makes me wonder, and of course, timing. These things are filmed well before we're having these conversations, but I do compare Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett to Obi-Wan Kenobi a lot, with the whole fact that you got multiple directors on the former and one director, all encompassing, all powerful showrunner director, and I think she co-wrote some stuff, or maybe not. I don't know the scripts, so I won't even go there. But She was the director
involved
before
the
all
script
of
was finished, certainly, and would have had some say in the way things went. But I think I can understand why they did it for Obi-Wan Kenobi in no way, because it was designed as almost like one long movie.
Right, but did it necessarily pan out? And like I said, timing,
No.
there's no way Obi-Wan and reception had anything to do with what they're doing with Andor, because they were both in production at various times at the same time. But it
Andor
is something
started before Obi-Wan, but finished after it, because it was location shot.
And there is that thought in the back of my mind. Like I said, I compare them myself, and I go, maybe the old adage of too many heads. Maybe it's about having the right amount of multiple heads instead of just one with Star Wars. I don't know. We'll have to see.
True. I mean, if you look at Star Wars as a whole, the prequels were worse because George Lucas had much power and didn't really have the kind of people round about him that he did have previously. Not that he didn't want them back, but a few of them were a bit kind of like bummed out that he got all the fame, he got all the power, he got all the money, from Star Wars, and they were, Gary Kurtz specifically is the one I'm thinking of, and I don't think he was particularly interested in coming back for the prequels. Lawrence Kasdan was asked to come back. He didn't want to come back and work with Lucas for the prequels either, whereas he was willing to come back for Solo, so it's... I think you're right. Ultimately, that's what I'm saying. I think you're right. Absolutely, it's about finding the right people, and even if you are the person in charge, you need people that will say, "Well, I think this is a great idea. I don't like your idea, but I'm going to explain why, and I'm going to come up with something better." But ultimately, you're the boss, so you get to choose whatever way you want to do it. And I think that's a good, healthy working relationship.
Yeah, and I don't know how long I had my screen on only, but it was probably for a little bit of Cam talking. I apologize, you guys, staring at my face, listening to Cam's much better non-stuttering, non-nasally voice. Yeah, man, it's just one of those things where we can't there's a lot of fear, guys. I mean, I love Star Wars, but let's face it, it's all been hit or miss since 2015. All of it. It's been hit or miss.
Yeah, I think in some ways, though, you're going to get that because they're making so much more stuff. Like, prior to that period, there wasn't a lot of Star Wars, so we put it a bit on a pedestal, above other franchises, because we didn't get very much of it. I don't think we can do that anymore. It's a big franchise, and maybe the biggest. Maybe you would argue Marvel's bigger now. I don't know, but I would probably now, but who knows? That I may be wrong on that, but they seem like the two biggest kind of franchises that are out there at the moment. Anyway, they're very different the way they work, but with Marvel, we always accepted that you wouldn't love everything because there's just so much content. It's kind of hard to get used to that sometimes with Star Wars.
Yeah, so. I'll also say Marvel had, especially with Phase 2 and 3, pretty much almost all bangers. Bangers. Iron Man 3, Thor 2, sure. And like you said, the sheer amount
gold at the right time.
Right. The sheer amount that they put out, you expect some bad ones. But now look at Marvel's content. There's been a drastic drop in quality and QA/QC, quality assurance and quality control, and that goes up and down everywhere from mid-level managers at VFX not making sure their crews are properly taken care of, to the outrageous shit at the very top coming down that trickles down to filming crews and VFX crews that make them work on in cramped timelines and things like that.
When you're trying to get that much stuff out,
I understand.
But
I don't like
to pay for it.
Yeah,
and I don't pay for the hours and pay the people that they staff. And sometimes you think you can't blame Marvel for everything. So sometimes you've got to blame whoever's running some of these visual effects companies, because
like I said, the middle managers down there.
Want, for this, and then they're saying, right, we're not going to hire any more staff because we want to make some nice profits. All of you get this work done within this time scale. Marvel can't be blamed for that, but you know, you can totally understand why dates keep shifting, and people get so annoyed when dates shift, don't they? Oh, I'm so annoyed that this has been delayed, and it's like, well, just, you know, be patient, man. It's okay. It's not like this has been delayed indefinitely because we have real issues with the story here, which does happen from time to time. But if there's going to be delays, there's going to be delays, because I would rather things are delayed till they put finishing touches on than they rush stuff out and then we get a bad product.
If they put finishing touches on it. some CGI in Marvel is
I don't just mean the visual effects. I know
editing, sound, as well, everything. Light and balancing. Blue light was awful.
Obi-Wan could have done with another month in the editing suite. Does that make sense to you? Like,
and they should have had someone whoever their color grader, and I know my guys, I don't know how to do color grading, but I know what looks good and I know what doesn't look good. And blue is a weird thing to film digitally and then see with our eyes. I can't explain it all, but trust me, it's different. And the amount of blue they had on set may have looked a lot less than what ends up on camera on I don't want to call it film, but on video. And I just, with digital dailies and stuff like that, it bugged me, man. It bugged me. And like I said, I don't like to settle. I don't believe I should have to settle. I don't. There's excuses.
You absolutely do have to settle because the show is what.
Yes, I have to. I'm saying I don't. I shouldn't have to.
Is to criticize it if you think it's worth criticizing.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm kind of getting at is we are used to getting one thing, and then we're not getting it. We're not getting the same quality, and it goes from writing to editing, like you said, beyond visual effects. Even music. Everyone was so stoked about the Kenobi music, especially with Williams coming back. Mm-hmm. Dude, overall, the music for Kenobi through and through, even the new theme that Williams wrote, was relatively forgettable. It was good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not calling it bad. It was just like the sequel. Right, it's like the sequel trilogy. How many songs do you really recall?
It was kind of like they said, let's make a new score rather than bring back some of the old tunes. It's like they have this weird thing where they won't use the Imperial March because it had never come out till Empire Strikes Back. But it's like, do we care that Empire Strikes Back came out when I was 2 years old? Do you know what I mean? You weren't even born when Empire Strikes Back came out. So from our conscious, you know, the Imperial March is part of Star Wars, and maybe the best piece of music that was ever created.
They worked it into the prequels in little ways, in more ways than we got in the. Yeah. And like I said, I kind of
moments where that could have really worked.
Yeah,
you know, and just boom.
Look at the sequel trilogy. You know, great music, but it's. I remember more of the prequel trilogy songs than I do the sequel trilogy songs. Rey's theme is good. Rey's theme is good. Don't get me wrong. Rey's theme is good.
I like Rey's theme. And
after that, it's kind of like the music is good. We're not. We're not calling it bad. It's just,
you know. I mean, maybe we've not watched them enough.
March of the Resistance or whatever is okay, but even that's not.
How many times have we watched the original Star Wars? So the music sticks in your head, right? You know it. You know. I mean, maybe not quite to the level I do, where I could tell you the piece of music and exactly what scene it was for one of the old trilogy films.
I could.
But
you used to have all the scripts memorized just about.
If I've only watched maybe Force Awakens, let's say 3 or 4 times, 5 times maybe tops. Last Jedi twice. Rise of Skywalker twice. I'm not going to remember music from that. So the fact that maybe Rey's theme even sticks in my head because it was one of the few constants that we had all the way through.
Not just that, it actually is a well put together and memorable piece. It's memorable. Like I've had this conversation when we review anime. Some people will get ballistic over me calling some music as par for course, meaning that it's good. It's not bad. It is good. It's serviceable, right? I enjoyed it. It did not take away from my experience, but it doesn't add to the experience either. And I feel like a lot of things in Star Wars these days, because they're just willing to let all of these little pieces kind of become meh, just to get more out there. And I don't think you necessarily have to do that. And if anything, you and I have even mentioned, and others have mentioned, that maybe there is too much Star Wars. Hell, even Disney said there was too much Star Wars when they put a halt on the rest of the Star Wars story movies. And
we all know that was just an excuse,
you know.
But because they want more Star Wars because it's making money. But yeah,
I get it.
Director
I just wish
Damon
people wouldn't be
Lindelof said that he kind of
eating
felt
it
there was
up.
too much Marvel at the moment as well, and that,
I can agree with that too.
it's hard to
The quality
disagree
is
with it.
meh.
But I'm still being entertained, 9 times out of 10 with Marvel.
Maybe 7 times out of 10. Miss Marvel, a lot of misses on that. Falcon and Winter Soldier really dropped the ball, especially in the second half.
Yeah.
WandaVision had its issues, even though I did enjoy that one more than most people. What had about maybe 4 of the episodes were good.
The Disney shows have been
Moon Knight.
I like Moon Knight, but
it was good, but it wasn't as great as it could have been.
Where I've seen an issue with Marvel,
Hawkeye,
when they do the movies aren't that much bigger and better than the TV shows. Really,
not anymore. Eternals was crap. Black Widow was pointless.
I enjoyed Eternals more than Black Widow.
I like Shang-Chi, but hey, we're back on Marvel. Damn.
Yeah. But the point is, we don't have any movies to compare to Star Wars at the moment because it's been so long since we had, movies out. And you maybe listen to this and you like the sequels. There are crazy people out there, and we encourage, crazy people to watch our show as well. But Kel and I didn't like those sequels. From the most part, we didn't agree with absolutely everything we didn't like about it because we felt differently about each film at sometimes. But as an overall product, we didn't like it. And it's hard. It just the bare bones of what made that sequel trilogy didn't work for us. And when the bare bones, the foundation doesn't work, doesn't matter that it was pretty because it was really pretty. Nope. It doesn't matter that they had a really good cast because they did have a really good cast.
They sure did.
Doesn't
even matter. The dialogue is better than most of.
The dialogue.
Most of it is better than
the prequels.
Yeah. Doesn't
These
matter.
Things are all better.
Awful overall.
The foundation just is a void, and that's the problem with those films. And I think we do have a foundation, like in the Mandoverse, they're building a story that isn't really or doesn't seem to be massively connected to. I think they're going to hint at things that build into the sequel trilogy, but it's really it's all about Mandalore really at the moment. Maybe Ahsoka going a slightly different direction, right enough, but that's where you kind of feel that they're building their own story just within a time window. Whereas Obi-Wan is kind of so intrinsically connected to the Skywalker saga. It's, if you're saying, right, what's the Star Wars Skywalker saga? You couldn't take Obi-Wan Kenobi out, could you? You could take Rogue One out, because is it really, it's a connected directly before A New Hope, but is it important to the overall? But actually, the way they made Obi-Wan Kenobi, it kind of becomes important, because it's supposed to define how you then see what happens later on. And that's why I think we set maybe a higher bar for it in some ways as well, because it did have advantages over all these other shows, because it's bringing back heavyweight characters. How many shows get to use Darth Vader in his prime and get to have Darth Vader fight Obi-Wan Kenobi? That's not going to really, and we don't want it to happen again because it should be such a rare event. And our issue with Obi-Wan was always that there was greatness there. It was, it was almost like the director credit line. We were this close to power, to greatness. It just didn't quite make it at the end, and that's the annoying thing about that show, because it could have been really, really done just a little bit more care and attention, almost.
And like I've said, I would almost prefer outright trash to
just so you can ignore it.
Disappointment, yeah. But I can't even ignore it. Like I said, Jammer's always like, oh, you could just ignore the rest of the sequel trilogy and enjoy the Last Jedi, his favorite Star Wars movie, weirdo Janet. But I can't ignore that Rise. I
Some people can.
I can't ignore Rise of Skywalker as canon. It happens after everything else. I can't ignore that. I cannot watch Empire and Jedi without realizing how shitty they crapped all over my boy's all over my boy's story, man.
Yeah. It's Anakin's story, and he's just not existent.
Papa Palpatine's story. What are you talking about?
And it almost feels like it became Papa Palp's story, and yet he was only in 6 films out of 9 he was in, and one of them was like, hello, goodbye. So that's not a lot of time for a character that, so it's not about Palpatine, but they made it be about Palpatine, and just so many mistakes. But yeah, that's the thing about Rise of Skywalker, and that they panicked. They tried to kind of do something that they thought would connect to the Skywalker saga and make it an end to that, and what they did instead was ruin it.
Yep, they thought we were dumb. We weren't. Some of you are. Some of us are. Not all of us. Anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for today. Join us next week for more Star Wars talk. As long as there's some actual news to discuss. We can usually get into good conversations like we did today, but it'll be fun to have some new stuff to talk about for Star Wars. It almost makes you wonder, like, before this, before the sequel trilogies started up again, like how did Star Wars YouTube and stuff survive?
Well, it wasn't. No, they weren't doing weekly shows like we do. Yeah, because you just wouldn't do that. There wasn't enough to talk about. It would be more something like get guests in that had some connection to Star Wars, speak about it. It would be that kind of deal. So.
But you guys can check out all sorts of content, even if there isn't any Star Wars content here on the Genreverse podcast.
We'll just bring Shoki back and we'll just argue with him.
We'll bring up prequel stuff so. And yeah. But we've got all sorts of other shows. We've mentioned the Marvel Multiverse Mayhem, which does Marvel news and reviews. We've got Anime Versal reviews and AVR Squared, which is anime reactions. Genre Shot trailer reactions, Daily Cup of Genre, Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast. All of those up on the YouTube channel. Everything except for the reactions goes up in audio format wherever you get your podcast from in general. Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud for one more day. If you're listening to this, the 26th is the last day we publish new stuff on SoundCloud. After that, Google, Spotify, Apple, Sounder.fm, all of those will be getting our podcasts. All the other ones already did, but Sounders are new hotness. And then all the written stuff, all of the reviews, celebrity interviews, write-ups for the podcast, links for the podcast, everything else you can imagine in entertainment news is on lrmonline.com. So go there, click on some stuff, read some stuff, join us in the comments, talk to us about what's on your mind and what you think about the stories and what's going on in the Discord podcast. And yeah, you guys can hop over to our Discord. There's a link in the description box below. We've got all sorts of stuff going on in there. Rooms for everything you can imagine. Rooms specifically for the podcast. Hop in there and chit chat with us. A lot of good fun
LRM
stuff.
Genreverse staff are all in there. That's where we talk to each other about movies with all the other kind
of
our
readers, conversations
that come in and chat with. So.
Right here. So check all that out. Cam, anything else you wanted to throw out?
Don't think so. You can find me. My details are on the screen if you're watching. If you're listening on podcast, it's at LRM_Cam. Please feel free to reach out. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, or if you're interested in doing some work with us at some point. We're always looking for new contributors, so please feel free to give me a shout, or Kel. It doesn't matter which one of us you contact.
All right, guys, I'm at that Colin Malone on Twitter, and we'll see you next time. I hate it when it stops before I can even get the words out. May the Force be with you.